How are you doing?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
Yeah, we're good, thanks.
Great, thanks.
Sorry about our tardy timekeeping.
Don't you worry. Don't you worry. I was thinking you were still in Spain, and then when you said Croatia, it's like, yeah, that's probably 1957 you're in now.
Yeah.
And we are operating on like sponge brain at the moment. So
oh no. Well, I mean, this you're going to tell me all about it, I guess, in a bit. I bet it's just absolute crazy every day with you guys. I really do. It's immense.
Yeah. We're at the moment going through a process of trying to teach Crusoe to sleep properly. It's something that's quite painful for us and painful for Crusoe as well, but very necessary because early November we'll be heading over to Africa, and it's around about the same time that Crusoe will start to learn how to crawl as well. So we're just imagining this kid that is now mobile, that doesn't want to sleep, that starts chasing us around the deserts and the savannas and the jungles of Africa because he wants his mum rather than going to sleep on his own. So we're teaching him to sleep on his own right now, and there are some tears involved.
I know the feeling.
Yeah.
No, the feeling. I would have brought Jack, but he's asleep.
Lucky you! It's like the golden hours, aren't they?
Yeah, it's weird. It's like, is it 3 minutes or is it 2 hours? We don't know which one it is yet. So wherever nap it is, which one it is, I don't know. Really don't know. Oh man, thank you for doing this, by the way.
No, thank you.
Honestly,
gosh.
it's when I saw your channel a couple of months ago. My in-laws introduced me to you guys because we've been watching a load of campervan conversions, but very few people that do what you've done, like just absolutely gone into the full life of doing it and going across Europe. And I mean, you did it with the first van, pregnant as well, Tara, pregnant. And now with a baby, which is the second.
Yeah.
It's immense.
So Mark, he's fairly chilled. There may be moments where he gets a little bit less chilled, so we apologize in advance for that.
I might have to shoot off and feed him or something just for 5 minutes just to.
Oh, that's fine. No, totally.
He is 7 months old now, so.
And has been, like you say, a big part of the journey right from the time our van life journey started. So we found out that I was pregnant about 3 weeks after we had bought. That's the right way around, isn't it? After we had bought the first van, quit our jobs, sold the house, and then it was like, and we are having a baby.
Wow. God.
It all really happened at once, which was a bit crazy. And there was a moment where we were like, okay, is this the point where we go back to our boss, our jobs and say, oh, hang on a minute, can we actually have our jobs back? Or do we pull out of the house sale? Is moving into a tiny Toyota Hiace what we should be doing at this point?
I bet you that really kind of just shuddered you in that moment, thinking, shit, this is the way we're going.
Yeah. Not even a little bit, Mark. Not even a little bit. For me, it was the greatest way to start that kind of knowing that you're about to have a child, knowing that you're responsible for the way that kid views the world and how he's going to grow into the world, made it all the more clear and evident that we need to make a life that we are proud of living, and make a life that kid will grow thinking more responsibly about our planet, more responsibly about how he talks and relates to other people. When we got married, we had one of our lines was a world without borders, wasn't it?
Yeah.
How we don't think of borders as country lines. They're arbitrary lines on maps. People are everywhere, and it's important that he grows up knowing that.
That's awesome.
So it was a perfect time for us to be heading off and doing something like that. Why not? Tara's pregnant. We've sold the house. We've got a kid on the way. What better time to do it?
That our families agreed for the beginning bit, but they got there in the end.
They got in the end, yeah. Can we take it all the way right back to the beginning? Right to the beginning. Yeah. I saw a video that you done, John, that you were in Afghanistan. Were you guys together at that time, or was that sometime long before you guys met?
No, we were sat next to each other actually in an office.
Yeah.
At that point, weren't we?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
We weren't quite an item yet. John used to drive me absolutely crazy because he'd constantly be like, "What are you doing at this desk? You know, go. We got to sort of live life. You've got to get out of here." And I was at that point, you know, feeling awfully responsible and going, "No, I need to be at my desk and, you know, making some money and this is the right
bills." Yeah.
Yeah. And he was going, "Well, I'm going to Afghanistan next week," and I was like, "This guy's crazy. I don't know what he's on about." Maybe to go to Afghanistan.
There we go.
But so that was before our time, but
yeah,
an amazing trip.
So I had I'd been traveling a lot, Mark, before I came back to the UK. 13 years almost on the road.
Yeah.
And then I basically ran out of money. So I needed to get a job, and that's when I met Tara. I got a job at a big travel company, selling smart, opulent trips to rich people. And for the first part of that job, I could never understand why anybody would be paying £4,000, £5,000, £6,000 to go on a trip to Africa when I was doing it, you know, just
like
a couple
$50.
of months ago
Yeah.
for £50.
Yeah.
For 6 weeks, you know.
Yeah.
But there I was finding myself selling holidays to rich people, and sat down next to Tara, and like she says, I could never work out what she was doing in the UK. I said I would say to her, "Are you saving money then? Is that why you're here?" No. So the amount of money that you're earning is just going on paying bills and making sure that you can stay in the UK. You must really like the UK. No, I wish I was in Africa. Okay, so when you were in Africa, were you saving money? No, but you were enjoying the life in Africa. Yes. What are you doing here then? You know, that was my constant question to Tara.
Tara.
I know. Thanks.
Why?
Why are you doing that? Why are you sat at a desk earning money to pay bills when you could be doing exactly the same thing in a place where you really want to be?
Why, Tara? Why?
I know, I still don't have the answer. I mean, it really was quite daft, wasn't it? He was hitting the nail on the head, and he was, you know, when somebody touches a nerve and you know that they're right, and you're like, oh, I don't know.
But I think when you're young and your life, that everyone dictates to you, don't they? Go and get a job, go and get a mortgage, go and pay bills. And that's normal to everyone. And then when you do something like what your guys are doing, it's seen as like, what the freaking hell are you doing? That's weird. And I guess you were still in that state of mind when you met John.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was kind of, you know, in my early 20s, and that was what life was all about. And I thought, well, I've landed my dream job here, you know, it's a great job. They send me traveling once every 18 months and they pay for it, and it's all great, and you know, it's all very exciting. So in my mind, I'd won the lottery. But then, you know, you meet people along the way, John, who teaches you to think differently and teaches you, you know, I'd always subscribed to the idea that the minutes and seconds of life are incredibly important, and you know, not a single one should ever be taken for granted. But it's I don't know, it took a little bit of a shove in the right direction to see what that meant and what that could mean in terms of how life could unfold, you know, and what the journey could look like.
This is it. This is what this podcast is about, that epiphany moment where you discover that. And I speak to people that start businesses or go off and do stuff in their lives, and it's that moment where they realize they are in total control of their lives. Total control, and you're not on that hamster wheel anymore.
No, exactly. It's a daily choice, really, and it's you know, anybody can make it.
It's a hard one, though, you know, because you know, when you are on that hamster wheel, your daily decisions are, what should I have for dinner, and what should I be doing at the weekend?
Yeah.
You know, pretty much that's the extent, and those are great. Well, you know, simplifying it massively, there are people out there who have lots of decisions to make on a daily basis, but you know, to simplify the main decisions, that's probably it. for me now, we are making decisions about our lives every day that are big decisions. You know, where to go next, how to pay for it.
We're gonna go, if you don't mind going down that route, is because I presume you don't have any jobs at this moment in time. How is that affordability? I obviously don't go into figures because that's a bit rude to go down that route. But how is it affordable? How do you pay for it, or have you done something that's different, extraordinary? Yeah, it's a tough question to ask. I can cut this out.
So you hustle a lot. You know.
Yeah, it is all about a hustle.
It's all about a hustle. You content yourself with small income, and so in the past I've had jobs that have paid quite well, very well in fact, and so we do have savings, but we try and balance the savings with a little bit of hustle along the way. So you do a little bit here and a little bit there, you pick up a little bit of money here and you pick up a little bit of money there, and suddenly a couple of €100 from here, a couple of €100 from there, it starts to add up.
Yeah.
And as long as you keep your daily budget, if you like, in check, then you can make it last. It can be significant. So I'll give you an example of that. YouTube at the moment currently pays us about $450 a month.
That's a livable budget.
So $450 a month. And then, okay, what else have we got? We've got a Patreon account, which kind people contribute to our journey. It's kind of, Patreon's a way of tipping your favorite YouTubers or people that you want to support. So from Patreon, we get about $50-$60 a month, not much. And then we do a little bit of freelancing work every now and then, and that helps tick things along a little bit as well. And
this is it. This is the sensible and great in this day and age with YouTube and Patreon, and freelancing across Europe is a really good gig as well, isn't it? In various sectors as well. So you can take a quick seasonal job in one country for a couple of months or a couple of weeks, and then move on.
Well, we're actually parked up next to a couple of German people at the moment, young people, and there's a vineyard just literally 10 meters away from where we're parked up right now. They've gone off to pick some grapes for the day.
Oh wow!
In return for their camping, the guy who owns the campsite owns the vineyards. They were like, "Can we come and help with the harvest to pay for our campsite tonight?"
That's brilliant. That's the hustle. That's the hustle.
That's it, and that saved them a day of camping fees. And what I've loved about this whole process is learning to kind of measure money against experience. And we always said that we would never prioritize wealth over experience. That's what is so important to us. But the way that we kind of measure it is, okay, if we try and budget €50 a day for our living expenses, if I then want to do something, or John wants to do something, or we need to spend money on something that's €200, it's like, oh gosh, well, that's 4 days on the road.
Yeah.
4 days less experience time, or whatever it might be. It's a really cool way of measuring things. That means that when you need to spend that money on something else, or you want to spend that money on something else, it kind of helps you to keep that in check. And we're very then conscious of how long we've got before we're going to need to hustle harder and that kind of thing. So
but it's the reason I highlight it, because I think this is the fear that a lot of people have. They would love the van life, but they're thinking, well, I quit my job, I sell my house, how am I going to pay for it? And people are always kind of stuck in that kind of rut, aren't they, about paying their bills. And again, it's gone back to that.
You know what it is? What it is, Mark, is a fear of the future. So everybody could do it for tomorrow. Everybody could do it for the next day. And probably most people could crack on and enjoy it for 5, 6, 7 weeks without worrying too much. It's what happens after that. That's the obstacle. That's the block.
Yeah.
And that's the mental block in most people's minds. Not, oh, I could do it for tomorrow or the next day. It's how do I carry it on? And the answer is, we haven't got a clue. but we're okay with that.
Yes.
You know,
it's like fearing death, isn't it? It's like you can fear death all your life, but nobody knows what happens when it happens. So why are you fearing it? You know, it's
we don't know what happens next month. We don't know how we've got an idea of how we're going to afford it next month, and we've got an idea of how we can carry it on. For as long as we like. But then, you know, after you've been doing it for a year, you kind of work it out. You know, you get these ideas. Oh, all right, okay. Well, we could do this, or we could do that, or we could do this. But initially, I think the obstacles are definitely what happens. What happens if I can't?
What would you say if people were looking into doing this? What would you say the biggest obstacle would be then on the financial side of things? Is there a big cost that they need to worry about the most, or is it relatively within most people's budgets, would you say?
I think it's how you manage it. And there's so many people doing it, and you know,
it's growing, isn't it? It's really
crazy,
growing,
especially since the pandemic. I think, you know, a lot of people sort of looked at alternative ways of living because they had to, or because it just gave everyone an epiphany, like it did us, of, well, hang on a minute, life's short and we need to do something. You know, you can live in a van and not stay in campsites and park up, wild camp everywhere, and basically your accommodation therefore is free. You know, you travel slowly, you don't need to spend much on fuel. You live simply food wise, you don't need to spend much on food. I think it's probably one of the cheapest ways that you could live.
I've got a couple of great examples of that as well. Not necessarily van life, but from but from living on the road. So my first ever trip, my second trip actually, my second big trip, I had 300 pounds in my back pocket. I remember talking to my uncle and saying, "Yeah, I've got 300 pounds in my back pocket. I'm going traveling." Back in the day when it was called traveling. I'm not sure what it's called now, but I said, "Yeah, I'm going to go off traveling." He said, "All right, how much you got?" So 300 pounds. He said, "Okay, see you next week." I managed to make that, along with a bit of a hustle, working on boats, working as a fisherman, working in parts as a thespian as well. That was quite good fun. But I managed to make that last for 9 months, and I traveled 3 continents on it. So that was pretty cool. I also, on that same trip, met 2 Italian guys that were living on $5 a day. Now, why did I tell you that? Not because everybody can live on $5 a day, because that's bloody difficult. I'm telling you that because if you choose to, you can.
That's it. And I think, like you said, the pandemic changed a lot of people's lives. A lot of people had to live on very tight budgets and realized they didn't have to commute to work. They didn't have to, and suddenly money became a different relationship, didn't it? And I think that's what you're trying to say, isn't it, really? It's that relationship with money and how you measure it against your happiness, I guess, in that sense.
Yeah, totally. I think that's what we've said to lots of people, is we've kind of learned, it's not that we've learned to live with less, because we do still have, you know, a very, I don't know, we
still go to restaurants. I've seen them.
Exactly. Every now and then we go out for a meal, and we still, you know, we live really, really well, but it's prioritizing what's important to us, and we're conscious of what we're spending, but not in a way that kind of feels, because we've measured it against that day. So you're just like, okay, cool. Well, do I want to sit and have this lunch, or do I want an extra day on the road? You know what? That lunch looks delicious. I'm going to do that, you know?
Yeah.
And it's kind of, I don't know, it's an empowering way to look at it. It's very freeing way to look at money. And like John says, if you let go of the fear of the future.
But it's a
good point, Crusoe. Very good point.
But if you, in order to let go of the fear of the future, you have to have true confidence in yourself. You have to believe in yourself. You know, you have to say, okay, if the shit really hits the fan, where do I go to? The only place I can go to is me, or I go to Tara. We go to each other. And can we get ourselves out of that situation? You know,
am I okay with worst case scenario? That's our constant question is, okay, what's the worst case scenario? And we don't get like super dark on what the worst case scenario is. But,
nuclear war and aliens.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a little bit too worst case. Yeah, like
exactly.
your engine brakes or
Exactly.
blow a tire. Yeah. Those are the kind of.
Am I okay with that?
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, we both have to go and find jobs again and sit behind a desk in a year's time or 6 months' time. Are we okay with that? Well, the truth of the matter, no, not really. But fine. What we'll do then is find a way to make it as short and painless as possible, so that we can start living the way we want to do again. Are we okay with that? Yeah, cool. We're okay with that, because that means that today can be the way it is now, and that's what we want.
One thing we just on that very quickly, Mark. One thing we won't ever do though is get into debt doing this, because I'm never ever going to come back from a trip in debt and spend the next year, 2 years paying off the fun. The money's got to be there, otherwise we're not doing it. And I think that's a strong rule.
And that's probably one of the reasons why a lot of people that do van life are doing it, is to not be in debt, to have a mortgage or credit cards or whatever it is that they have around their neck. And it is changing your life to that cheaper methodology of living, isn't it, really?
Yeah. Having said that, credit cards are a great idea as long as you use them wisely. You rack up your points, and you get free stuff. So why not use them? But make sure you pay them off every month, so it doesn't cost you anything.
As Martin Lewis says, in full.
Exactly.
What has it done, I guess, for yourself, Tara? Because you've gone on a journey. John was already there. 10, 15 years ago. Yeah. What's it done? How's your journey gone from obviously meeting John, you guys getting together, getting married? Yeah. How's that journey gone for you? Has it been an overnight kind of thought process, or was it just suddenly, or was it just a long, gradual process of getting to where you are now?
I kind of, and I don't know if you'd agree, but I sort of flick-flack between the two still sometimes. I am naturally quite a cautious person.
You sound like me.
I'm quite risk averse. I am also very good at getting into a comfort zone. Like I can quite happily inhabit a safe little place and make that place really happy and be okay with that, and not need to push the boundaries. But I did learn very early on in life that you kind of, by pushing the edge of your comfort zone, often magical things really do happen right at the edge of it, and that is true of any circumstance in life. And so what John does for me is just nudges me sometimes in that direction, and having Crusoe and trying to do that as a mum has been the biggest journey and the biggest bit of learning for me, for sure, because it kind of got easy when it was just the two of us, and I was like, cool, man, I can do this. This is totally okay. I can roll with the punches here. I don't, it's just the two of us. This is easy peasy. And being pregnant on the road was the best thing ever, because it kind of took me away from inhabiting that space, and I almost couldn't think about, the pregnancy, as it were. We just got on with life, and we were so busy the whole time and doing so much that it was just easy, and it wasn't something that sort of took over every thought or became something that I stressed about or worried about. It was so nice to do it that way. And then when Crusoe came along, it was kind of, he was 7 weeks old when we got in the van and drove up to Scotland.
Yes.
And that was the biggest push I've needed, I think.
That was hard, wasn't it? Yeah. You were pretty well, your eyes were leaking a little bit before we left.
I found that really tricky. I was like, oh gosh, Crusoe, but it was kind of all in my head. I was like, oh, Crusoe knows the house, he knows where the bed is, he knows where the changing mat is, he's really happy here. I mean, he was only 7 weeks old. So.
But that's that protective mum thing that you would naturally do anyway. My wife does it all the time, so it's that protective thing.
And you just, it's and the fear of the unknown. And I was like, but we're really comfortable. Yeah, I don't know if I want to go live in a van with a baby, and what if he doesn't like it? What if we don't like it? What happens if? And I was being quite difficult. And John was like, well, okay. Worst case scenario.
Oh, you can.
Jack and Chris are having a chat on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And John said to us, worst case scenario, you know, what's the worst that's going to happen is we have to come home, because you know at that point we had a home and we could just come back to. So worst case scenario is we turn around in Scotland and we drive back. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
So off we go. You know,
it was a nice little taster, wasn't it? Scotland going up and
it was.
And kind of just experiencing it for was it a couple of weeks you were there?
It was a good test.
I think he's hungry. Should I sit on the floor so I can keep talking? No. So yeah, and Scotland was a great test because the van wasn't finished. You know, we still had a lot of work to do on the van, and it was flipping cold. So, you know, we were like living in Lewis and Harris, and it was howling wind and pouring with rain, and we were kind of worried about what Crusoe was, if he was warm enough, or if we had what we needed for him.
I know.
That's food.
That's food.
That's food. I can tell that noise. So that's actually a really good point. You said you went to Scotland. It was really, really cold. Is that something you have to take into consideration every country now you go to, is where it is in the weather and the time of year, or you just don't really care?
Yeah, no.
Well, we don't have to take it into consideration in terms of anything important, but we do because we like sunshine. So the sun does dictate our route quite often. You know,
exactly.
we do like just look, and if it's pouring with rain when we want to go, we're like, okay, what if we go 2 hours east of that first? Or and that's the beauty of traveling in a van, is like, you know, you don't have a hotel booking in a place where it's pouring with rain for a week. It's like, well, I don't have to go there. I don't have to do that.
Okay, yeah. Case in point is this morning. So we've just I like a deal. Everybody likes a deal. And I came across flights this morning from Budapest to Amman in Jordan for £22 each return.
Wow.
Yeah, really cool. Hey, so I had been looking at our route down to Bosnia and into Montenegro, and it's raining down there right now, and it's going to be raining down there for a week, and that's exactly the route that we were heading. So instead of going down to Bosnia and down on that route and heading out into the rain, we are going to head up to Hungary, which is a lot nicer. The weather up there is great. We were going to go in that direction after Bosnia anyway. We're just going to switch it around and go up that way, and that's the joy of van life. You can change your mind whenever you want. We're in Croatia now, but tomorrow we'll be in Slovakia. In a week we'll be in Hungary, and on the 1st of October we're going to fly over to Amman and go to Jordan, because the flights were 25 quid. Why not?
Yeah.
So again, that's all part of the hustle. It's all part of the okay. We want to live. We know that it's a lot cheaper to be in Jordan than it is to be in Europe, for food, for other bits and pieces. And the experience that we can get from doing something like that is going to be pretty epic. So we've looked at the PCR testing, we've looked at COVID rules, we've looked at everything we needed to do, and we booked the test this morning. And that means that we can stay in the sunshine. So we can fly over to Jordan, have a week in Jordan, stay in the sunshine, come back. By the time we go down to Bosnia next, we're in the sun down there as well. So, you know, it's all about, for us, like Tara says, we like to be in the sun, don't we?
We do.
Yep. Just like my face is at the moment.
Yeah. No, it looks lovely there.
It's
been
nice for days. It's been
good.
Yeah. It's just nice. It's just nice to be in the sunshine. So, but also, you know, we don't shy away from the rain. We did Scandinavia, didn't we, for 6 or 7 weeks, and that was on at times quite challenging.
I did like your Finland video, by the way. That was amazing.
Oh, thank you. Finland. Yeah, we love Finland. We do love Finland.
Just those little huts in the middle of nowhere. That was extraordinary. That was.
Yeah.
I don't know, they've got a really special relationship with nature, Finland, I think, and just making it easy to access, and to make you feel like you're part of it rather than kind of separate from it.
Yeah. Norway was different though, wasn't it? It was a complete and utter opposite to that.
Yeah, I think, and for me, I don't know if it was just like the topography of Norway is a bit more limiting. You know, Finland's quite flat and it's sort of forested, and there is just a lot of space, and there is in Norway as well. But you're kind of surrounded by steep fjords and
Yeah.
tiny little. So the parking lot is half the size or a quarter of the size of it is in Finland, and I don't know, it just felt a lot more kind of enclosed, whereas Finland just feels very open and free. And van life wasn't as easy in Norway as we thought it was going to be, because it
Costs
there
a
are lots
lot of
people
money to
there.
drive around, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Although
Yeah.
going to Norway was the whole reason we started this whole van life adventure. I'm sure you've seen from our videos that it was the cost of traveling in Norway without a van was prohibitive for us to be able to do it for as long as we wanted to. So we were like, okay, so what do? Well, we build a van, and that's how we travel to Norway.
Yeah, I actually, when we built the van, the first van, I thought it was an original idea. I had no idea about van life. I had no idea that people were doing these YouTube van life ideas. I had no idea there was a hashtag. I just sat up on my sat outside in the garden in the middle of Bristol, which is where we used to live.
Yeah.
And had probably a little bit too much to drink. And then woke up in the morning and said to Tara, we're going to buy a van and we're going to put a bed in the back of it and we're going to go to Norway like that.
But doesn't the best idea start with just too much to drink, isn't it? Those are the best ideas. And then when you follow them through, you realize if they're a good idea or not, as you get to. But obviously...
and then we went and bought the van, and that was the first van, and that was basically... Tara and I looked at each other and we were just like, are we going to do this? It's a bit mental, isn't it? Just to buy a van. And so then when we were building the first van, we got carried away with it. And again, I had no idea that there were people out there making fancy looking vans and doing fancy stuff with the insides of their vans. It was just, we'd quite like a van that looks like this, so we're going to build it.
Yeah.
And then off we headed in the van, and that's when we started to realize that actually there was a whole community of van lifers out there.
Huge.
Doing stuff. Yeah.
It's massive. And also there's so many videos out there. When you start watching them all, you start going down this rabbit warren of like one methodology, and then someone going, oh no, it's got to be a sprinter van, it's got to be a transit van, and then this and the stuff they put in them, showers and it's extraordinary. There's one I'm following at the moment. I think they're in Croatia, I might be wrong. And they're building one, and a lot of it's for 3D printed parts. And he's an engineer himself. Yeah, he makes electric bikes. I'll send you a link later on so you can see the one I'm on about. Amazing stuff they've done. Yeah, and they're still building this van, and they're going to have a shower that pops up from the counter. And it's extraordinary, some of these things these people are building at the moment. But like you've done, John, you've built it around what you want and your needs, and not gone and bought a Peugeot Boxer camper van. The types that are out there at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's a good advice to Mark, to anybody that's thinking about building their own van. Number one, yes, you can. If that's the question, can I do it? Yes, you can. Yeah. It might be shit, but it'll be yours, and that's fine. That's all you need. Enjoy it. Number two. Does it cost a lot of money? No, it doesn't have to. Our first van that we built probably cost us around about £5,000 all in, everything, van and all the kit. We could have done it a lot cheaper. We could have bought £1,000 van and spent £500 on kitting it out, so we could have had £1,500 van. But for that van, we spent £5,000, just there or thereabouts. And then the next question is, before you start building anything, think about what you want from the van and where you're going to be using it. And do you need to put a shower in your van, or are you going to be staying at campsites mostly? Because if you're staying at campsites mostly, you don't need a shower in your van, because there'll be a shower at the campsite.
Yeah.
If you're using the van to drive around and experience the United Kingdom, probably for the most part, you'll be in campsites, because wild camping is quite difficult in the UK.
Yeah.
So you just don't need a shower in your van. Do you need a toilet in your van? It's nice not to have to get up in the middle of the night and walk across the campsite to go for a pee. So that's something that you might want to consider. Kitchens and beds and how you put them together, that's all just part of the fun.
Yeah. And also you see some of them, they put too much counter space, and they've got too many gadgets, and they've got too many gizmos. You don't need it, do you? Really?
we've got loads of counter space in this van because Tara likes to cook. So we've basically, in this van here, we've got almost a full-size kitchen. It's quite large, and that's because that we like food. So you know, that was.
But it's not at the detriment of a bed space, or you know what I mean. It's some of them are you have to build a bed. That's the whole argument at the moment, isn't it? The fixed bed and build a bed kind of situation as well, and you see a lot of them in that
fixed
sense.
Bed all the way.
We're fixed bed people.
Climb into it and fall asleep.
Exactly.
What's the biggest expense then have you found with building your van? Is it the batteries, the solar power, or is it something that we don't know about, other than the van, obviously?
Yeah. So the first van that we built, I don't know, it was just, everything was like, we were doing it as cheaply as possible. This van will have been batteries probably. So I made a mistake basically. I went down the lithium battery route. Very expensive. It's a very expensive way of getting electricity in your van. I wouldn't do it again. I'd stick with the normal lead batteries. Simple as that. So lead leisure batteries.
It's only because once you've bought the what are they? The lithium batteries. You then need a lithium battery controller. So everything for the lithium batteries is so much more expensive than the lead battery stuff. So we started along that path, and then it was like, no, actually, I don't think we want to continue spending to stay on this path. So we then went back to lead batteries because the controllers and the inverters and all that stuff that fit with them
a lot cheaper. Because lithium batteries, I think, are quite not a recent technology, but they're still a fairly new technology, aren't they? So they're still so lots of things don't talk to each other, and it all just got a bit confusing. So in this van, I think it would definitely be, I mean, if we carried on with the lithium batteries for sure. I think we spent a fair bit on the fridge and the climate controlled roof fan were probably the most expensive things. The wood started to add up towards the end of it because there's a lot of it.
But also when we were building it, weight, if you think about how much weight you're putting into the van, that's really, really important. We've seen lots of very good looking vans on the inside that basically run so low on the rear arches that
I can imagine.
Man, that's bad. So you know, when you're fully loaded with water, fully loaded with gas, fully loaded with food, how much does your van weigh? That's really key. And so when we were putting the wood in the van, we were pretty conscious of that.
Because you used tongue and groove, haven't you? Because I saw you when I was watching you build it. Would you use MDF or a lighter wood? Is there a lighter wood than that? Balsa.
I kind of like the style of this van, so I wouldn't go along it. You know, we built this because we like it. A lot of the design came from us just basically making it up as we go along. And I would, you know, the next van, I'm sure we will build another van, will look completely different to this one, but that's just because of circumstance and timings.
And this van, now looking back, I kind of laugh because we bought this van when Crusoe was 3 weeks old, and you'll know, Mark, that newborn, everyone calls it the newborn bubble, but man, it's just like a fog of like, sorry, what's just happened to my life?
Oh, I know.
Put it back.
I know. And Jack's my second child, and it's still the same with your first child and second child. It's crazy, absolutely insane. And I don't remember those 2-3 months from when he was born till it really is. And then they start rolling, and then you think, oh God, there's a baby rolling. What the hell am I going to do now? What's going on?
Why did it move now? It was so much easier before.
It was easy to feed, change bum, put it in its bed.
Yeah, exactly.
That's easy.
Exactly. I said to John, I feel like I'm trying to dress an octopus at the moment. Like it's mental.
We're going through that break dancing moment where they're just turning or rolling all the way down the bed, and you're trying to put the grow on them, and you hope you get a grow on them. You always miss buttons. Exactly.
It's stressful when the nappy's been, opened and then the rolling starts. It's like, no, wait, it's about to be carnage.
I know. I remember messaging you the other day saying that the moment that really gets me is when you're changing their bum, they flip over and crawl off, and you're like, mess everywhere. Yeah, you're gonna have to strap them into something and change their bum.
Exactly. We need those like tables. Anyway, so this van was built during that newborn haze, and I think it was John's retreat, and for lots of times where
Jack's coming, by the way.
Oh, good.
I'll see if I can grab
Hello, Jack.
Oh, he's flying! He's flying in!
Oh, hello, buddy.
Oh, don't push the keyboard. He's going to start jumping on the keyboard.
How old is he, Mark?
He is now 8 months, 3 weeks. Yeah.
Okay, so he's like almost 2 months older than Crusoe.
Yeah. So it was end of February, wasn't it? Crusoe was born, if I remember.
Yeah.
So 6th of January, this little monkey was born. Can you say hi? Say hi.
Hi, Jack.
How you doing? Look at the smile.
Smile. That's very nice. Oh, aren't you such a sweet little lad?
Luckily, you're good, aren't you?
So you're missing out on a mate.
He's pretty zen, eh? God.
He's not.
Dude.
When he's hungry or when he needs his bum changed, you think hell has just come to your house.
Yeah.
It's
they let you know, don't they?
Yeah. Or when you open the window just to get air in the house. No, this one, I'll start screaming now to make it sound like you're really bad parents.
Exactly. We've been having that with this whole trying to teach, get Crusoe to sleep. It's like the van gets closed up and we're all sweltering inside, which probably doesn't help, but just trying not to disturb everybody else around. So.
That's one of the big things about van life, isn't it? The stealth kind of feel to your van as well. You want it to look like just a commercial van, don't you? Just parked up on the lay-by, don't you? The thing.
But a lot easier in the other van than it is in this van.
Yeah, that was in the high ace in our first van. That was super easy. We stayed in the middle of a few cities. No problems. But this one is a bit bigger and it's got some windows in it. And when the side doors open, it does draw a certain amount of attention because of what it looks like inside.
Yeah.
You do have people wandering over and saying, "Oh, that looks good. Can I have a look inside?" It's a bit more difficult, isn't it, to do the stealth thing in this?
And also it's difficult to get into multi-story car parks in the middle of cities as well, isn't it, with a bigger van? Whereas
that's true.
Your smaller van, you could.
In truth, Mark, when we first started the whole van life, and you've probably come across it, there are people who only want to do the wild camping, and they frown on going to campsites or frown on going to park ups. We use a really handy app called Park 4 Night. You said about this on one of your videos, actually. Yeah, it is pretty handy. It's got campsites on it. It's got park ups. It's got farmyards. It's got all sorts on it. And so we don't mind where we stay. I don't mind staying in a campsite. I have no problem with that. In fact, once every 3 or 4 nights, if we've been wild camping, I want to stay in a campsite because I want to have
shower and a normal toilet.
Exactly.
Want to close the door.
On top of that, talking about those credit cards and the points that we earn when we spend on credit cards, every now and then, once a month, we'll go and stay in a hotel as well. Dump the van, let's go and stay in a Hilton, or let's go and stay somewhere fancy and have
use some points.
Points.
I think that's the craving a little bit, isn't it? Sometimes, even though this is your normal life now, but you want to crave kind of civilization normality at the same time. I think you have to sometimes, don't you?
Yeah, no, you do. Do you know what's cool about this van? We had this moment the other day with the other van, because we were kind of like, you couldn't sit in it, you couldn't really stand up in it. It was just like a bed.
Tube with a bed.
Yeah, exactly. That was exactly it. So that craving used to come quite quickly. And with this van the other day, we were like, hey, we've lived in this van full time now for 5 weeks and we haven't had that craving at all. Wow. It's been pretty easy. But we stayed with some family in France for a night, and I was like, oh no, wait, yeah, this is really nice. Yeah, you know, like this is great. Like I hadn't craved it, but I am really appreciating having a hot shower and a bigger bed.
Yeah, has that been the biggest thing you've missed then? Is things like a hot shower? Obviously, you can get it from some campsites, a good shower.
Yeah,
but
you can always find it. But I think I like being clean. So
you don't miss Sky Digital.
Do you know?
And
yeah, play with that.
Well done.
Well done, my boy.
The thing that you miss the most is going to be family.
Yeah, I was going to say, isn't it? It's people, isn't it? It's family. It's
people. Yeah.
I'm just gonna.
Okay. We don't. I personally.
I'll be back shortly.
Tara will be back shortly.
Don't worry.
I personally don't miss anything about. So I mean, you know, when you have a full-time job and you're working towards something. And you've got those daily goals or you've got those targets, that is quite nice as well, you know.
Yeah.
So on occasion, I do miss the challenge of a job.
Yeah.
But we've replaced that quite nicely with our YouTube channel and our blogging and our writing for newspapers and other magazines, and so we have replaced it quite nicely, and I do keep a hand in the travel industry, and so does Tara with our old companies as well. So
in essence, all you've really done is moved your house onto 4 wheels and changed your lifestyle of working. That's all you really have done, haven't you? It's not. Yeah. It's a big change to everyone's life when they do that, but it's not out of the norm, because you got people that are still working on their jobs but living in the south of France, but they're working in the UK, and COVID has done this to a lot of people, this whole work from home culture. Why not being on 4 wheels driving around Europe?
Totally agree with that, and you know, if you can make it work, power to you. That's because what you're going to find is more than you would find if you were going to the office every day. So one of the things that I would always say is, if you choose to go to that office every single day and you choose to live that life, here's what you're going to definitely guarantee yourself. You know exactly what's going to happen next week, next month, next year.
Yeah.
If you choose to step outside of that, then everything is possible. It's like infinity. You know,
it is.
It's like suddenly a universe is right there waiting.
It's amazing because I work in recruitment, and that is pretty much my day job. I can do it anywhere, admittedly. What I come across is a lot of people that experience that day-to-day life that they have suddenly stops for whatever reason, redundancy, or they don't like their boss, or something changes in their life, and then there's an epiphany moment where they've got to change their lives, but they lean back to the normality because that's what they know, that's what they're addicted to, it's habitual. At that moment, if you convince people to go down the route of what you're doing, or an alternate route, go and live in another country, they do it very quickly. And I've seen this with COVID. A lot of people change their lives very quickly when they didn't have a job. And it is that getting that fear and then getting over that wall, isn't it? I say to people to start businesses as well, it's getting that fear of that 9 to 5 and a regular paycheck, and just going over that wall and seeing life on the other side. And as you say, possibilities are massive, aren't they? Absolutely massive.
Exactly, Mark. And but the problem for most people, and I'm a guy really that doesn't use the word problem very often. I don't like it. But I would say that the obstacle, perhaps is a better word for most people, is that the focus wouldn't be on what I could get from that situation. The focus would be on what will I lose. And they're exact polar opposites. But they're exactly the same conversation. You know, they belong in the same conversation, but they are drivers or they're blockers, whichever one you want to look at it. And I personally and Tara and Crusoe, as you can hear, are all on the side of what could we get, not what could we lose.
It is flipping that. I try to do this with hiring managers when they look at CVs. Instead of looking reasons why not to speak to that person, look at the reasons why you should speak to that person, and it's just changing that mindset to the more positive kind of feel for it. And like,
yes. Because again, if you're okay with the worst case scenario, if you've worked out what the worst case scenario is without going to doomsday, and you're okay with that, then you've got absolutely no reason not to forge ahead with it.
Yeah.
You know, worst case scenario is you run out of money and you've got to go back and ask for your job back, or you can't find another job right away. So, you know, you're stuck basically. So, you know, worst case scenario, imagine, hypothetically, let's consider it. Somebody quits their job tomorrow, right? Buys a van with whatever savings they've got. Remember, let's never go into debt. Buys a van with whatever savings they've got, and then they head out on the road. They choose that for their life. They get 6 weeks into it and completely run out of money. What do? You've got a van,
yep.
Okay, you've paid for, and you've got some sort of welfare state, I suppose, in the UK that you could probably fall back on, but you probably wouldn't want to. So what do? Well, there are lots of jobs that you could do. Say, for example, at the moment, Tesco's is probably looking for people to stack
there
the shelves.
Is tons of warehouse. There's tons. I know the minimum wage jobs, but I mean, minimum wage now is almost 10 quid an hour in some companies. But
exactly.
It's not a shit wage. It's not a terrible job to do in the essence. I've done them before when I was a student, and it gets you by ready for the next adventure. And I think that's the important part. If that's the biggest worry to some people, you can be transitional like that.
Yeah, you can be transitional, and it's okay to have, okay, let's not call them shit jobs because they're important, but let's call them. Let's say, for example, you've come from a job that's paying you 45 grand, and you've made that jump. You've used your savings. You've gone out in your van, and it hasn't worked out. You hate living in a van, but here's the thing: even if you hated living in that van for those 6 weeks, and you find yourselves working in Tesco stacking shelves while you wait for the next job to come along, here's what's going to happen in a year's time. That hatred that you had for those 6 weeks of living in a van will have turned into the greatest adventure of your life. It will be a story that you share with everybody, whether it was the most horrible thing you ever did or the best thing you ever did.
Real, isn't it?
For me, some of the best stories that I've got have been of the gnarliest journeys that I've made, the hardest journeys that I've made. They're the most rewarding ones, the ones you absolutely are disgusted and hate or fearful of while you're doing it. And then you finish it and you say, okay, well, actually, probably don't ever want to do that again. But my goodness, was that cool, you know?
I mean, because that's the only one I kind of framed for you, because I loved the Afghanistan one, by the way. I thought that was fantastic. Was that the occupation happening at that same time? I'm presuming you weren't anywhere near the occupation in Afghanistan, but that is amazing.
That's the Taliban. Yeah, I had tea with the Taliban on that trip.
Wow.
Yeah, they were friendly enough. There were no problems really. It was while the Americans were in town, not literally the same town I was in. They were a couple of 100 miles away. But I had tea with the Taliban. I went into Iraq at the same time that they were chopping heads off. And I remember standing on the border in Turkey in a hotel called the Harbour Hotel, where a bunch of shared taxis head on into Iraq. I remember standing on the balcony of that hotel. It's a crappy hotel, brushing my teeth until my gums bled, wondering whether it was a smart thing to do or not. But thinking, I'm here, man. I got to do it. I got to do it. Yeah. And then I went in. It was brilliant fun. I came out with a fruit basket of oranges and all sorts of other.
Oh wow! Has there been a time where it's been quite scary on those early travels, or has it been pretty good adventures?
Oh yeah, I mean, of course you put yourselves in those positions. Going into Iraq, I was scared out of my mind. But you just push your way through it. There were adventures of crossing the Sahara Desert in southern Mauritania back in the day when there was some kidnaps going on. That was pretty scary. I got into a truck in the middle of the night and with a bunch of guns, and it's a whole different story. But that was a good story. And then of course there's South Sudan. That was rather gnarly too.
I can imagine South Sudan being quite an experience, to say the least.
I mean, there are a whole bunch, but here's the thing about those, and it ties back into what we were talking about just a moment ago.
Yeah.
You know, that it is the gnarlier, it's the harder things that you do that perhaps you're not enjoying when you're doing them, that are the moments that you'll remember as big moments. And so if you really hated that change in your life, that journey in your van for those 6 weeks, I guarantee that it's not a wasted adventure. It's not a wasted experience. It just becomes part of your life, you know, which is a great thing.
Totally. It's been an absolute amazing chat with you guys, honestly. And I have to say, I am a massive fan of your channel, by the way.
Thanks very much.
Oh, we so appreciate that.
I don't watch it on my phone or on a laptop. I watch it on my big TV.
Oh, you're on the telly. I love it.
You are on that. You are a part of our life every week, by the way. So whenever the new video comes up, we're like, oh, new video. And then we watch it straight away.
That's
brilliant.
So
Thank you.
And even though it's some of them are 20 minutes, some of them 30 minutes, but I tell you what, it feels like an immersive experience of your life and kind of where you do and where you're going. Even if they are stowaways like chickens. It's just honestly, I laugh my head off, by the way. We were crying with laughter with that situation.
I mean, you know.
It was, when I opened that door and saw the egg, I was like,
hang on.
What eggs? Where is that? It took a long time for me to kind of piece it all together, and then John saw the chicken first and just walked off and was like, I mean,
you know, it's one of those situations where you just look at each other, you deal with it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not dealing with it.
What do we do? I don't know.
It's not a spider. Who's dealing with it?
Yeah.
No, but thanks, Mark, for the support. Honestly, it just means so much to us, and we love, like, you know, when we see your comments and stuff. It just, I don't know, this whole journey has been so much more than we ever thought it could be, and you know, we're still only really starting out. Like,
I think so.
We've got there's so much to come, and
yeah,
it's exciting, and it's just I just love hearing from everybody and knowing that it's kind of, you know, we're part of other people's lives and they're becoming part of ours, and we're getting to know people, and it's just really cool.
I think that the coolest thing of it all, Mark, is that if we're not, and I really don't like the word influencing, because it makes me feel like that, you know, do you know what I mean? I don't want to be that kind of person, but if we can inspire rather than influence, and if we can take people along for the ride, and they enjoy that ride, whether it inspires them to go out and do it themselves or whether they just enjoy watching it on the big telly, then that's job done. And if it's one person or 1,000 people, that it doesn't matter.
I think the difference is with you guys, you definitely inspire us. Influencers, I feel, disconnect themselves from their audience and then kind of, I don't know what the word is, dictate maybe? It might be the wrong word to the audience. But you guys inspire and engage with your audience. And you've got I read some of the comments that some people have left. They're an amazing group of people that follow you. They're absolutely beautiful group of people.
They are good people. We're very lucky. Very
do they encourage you along as well? Do they help you along with the support?
Sure.
We've got people that that have basically told us about places, and the only reason we've been there is because of them.
Because they recommended.
We've known about it. So.
Someone sent you a PDF in Spain, didn't they? And it
amazing PDFs, Mark. You wouldn't believe it. Like, gone to the time of like putting pictures and descriptions and routes and recommendations of places to park. And,
wow.
I mean, that's the thing. The connections that we're making is so cool, you know. And people usually start chatting to on Instagram who believe in the same sorts of things that we believe in terms of how we're raising Crusoe and what our future hopes are for him. And you suddenly, you know, from going, I don't know, there's a real sense of, everyone always, you know, you say it and the word gets bandied around a lot, but there is a real sense of community. And
I think,
you know, in a funny way, we're kind of building our own little community of
I think you have. I think you've built a very extraordinary community. And if you could somehow capsulate that and sell it to someone, you make a lot of money with that community, because it is a group of people that are not just aspiring to be you guys, but I think from the comments, they're enriching their own lives because of you guys and what you have done as well. So it's extraordinary.
That's kind to say. Thank you.
And this,
Thank
I
you,
mean,
Mark.
it's such a highlight for us. It's been amazing to meet you and chat to you, and just so
Same
cool
here.
to,
It's weird. It's like I'm meeting my heroes at this moment in time. I am actually starstruck by this situation. Because my podcast, normally people are on LinkedIn and they start businesses, and they're great people, don't get me wrong, and we have great chats. But I followed you for the last couple of months because of my in-laws, by the way, showing, look what these guys are doing. Like, oh, God damn it. This is amazing. And I was sat there one day going, I'm going to ask him to come on my podcast. And I just typed you a message and I was like, oh my God, how much information do you need? Please come on my podcast.
Well, we were like, what? Someone wants us on their podcast? That's amazing.
Cool.
Yes, we'll do that.
Yeah, why
What a
not?
treat. So thank you.
It helps along the journey, isn't it? You might do hundreds more now podcasts after this, but it helps you along that journey, isn't it? It's just telling people who you are and get that message out there.
Exactly. Just extra ways to tell the story.
Yeah.
And by the way, you're exactly like your videos, by the way. You're not different people at all. You're exactly who you are in your videos, which is amazing.
I was just wiped her hands on my trousers.
And I've been so grateful of blueberries. If that was the distracting, like constant leaning down.
No, don't you worry.
Hug the baby with to stop him.
Crusoe, he's been amazing. He has in this podcast. Absolutely amazing.
Aren't you a little super stamp?
Yeah.
He is such a boy. You really are very lucky. So.
Yeah. Does Jack want to say goodbye?
Jack wants to say goodbye. Crusoe wants to say goodbye to Jack. Hey.
Yeah. Come here, monkey. Mummy's camera shy. Yes, Mummy's camera shy.
Oh, well, hello, Mummy in the background anyway.
Tara says hi. And we got this little dude as well. That's his little thingy. Oh, the sun's in your eyes.
I'm trying so hard to get Crusoe to love one particular teddy. It's an octopus, and I'm like, this will be your favourite teddy.
It's that.
I'm not interested. It's tags, isn't it?
Tags. It's tags. You can put any tag in front of them, and they'll just love the tag. And my other son is like it. My niece is like it. I think my nephew's like it as well. Tags.
Isn't it?
Can you see all right? Yeah. Oh man, thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much for your time, and it's been an absolute blast.